friends, neighbors, and of course the YouTube comment section. What is up, and welcome back. So today we are making a Switchcraft EN3 cable. We just got an order for these for a performing arts center, which ironically enough I actually mixed at, and that was a small world moment for me. I am making EN3 cables for front fills at a venue that I have mixed at previously, which is kind of cool when that happens. We were talking about the venue, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know where that place is. I've actually mixed there before. So our fine friends at Meyer, for whatever reason, love the Switchcraft EN3 connector. And I get it. It makes a lot of sense. It's a very small and compact connector, and it can carry audio, and it can carry power in one teeny weeny teeny tiny little trunk line. The bad thing is, if you're using the speakers for anything other than an installed application, it is really kind of terrible. I worked at a club in New York for a while that used Meyer UP Juniors as downstage monitors, featuring the EN3 connector. And man, anytime somebody was overzealous on that stage and kicked one off, it just trashed that connector. So what I ended up doing for that club is we made the EN3 connector, and I soldered a 5-pin XLR on this end, and then I made them a bunch of pigtails so that if and when somebody kicked that speaker off the stage and it trashed the connector, they could just quickly put another one on. But I have certainly experienced it myself, where I soldered those things back together between shows, and then also when other engineers were working there, I got called in to fix them. In this particular customer is using a Meyer, what is this thing? It's the little baby fills. It's the Meyer MM4XP speaker. And those are they have, I think, 4 of them on the downstage lip. So they are experiencing the same problem. And as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, when I was at that theater, they were having problems with them then. I think that was 2019 I mixed in there before the world went crazy. So, long story longer, we are making male and female versions of the right-angled Switchcraft EN3 connector. So this is the female version. This is the male. So we're making them to corresponding male and female XLR ends. Because that was one of the first weird little custom cable things that I had on LM's web store, which, of course, it's been, what, a minute and a half? Almost 2 minutes, and I haven't tried to sell you guys something yet? Check out that upper something. It's up there and down there if you're interested in this weird cable. But anyway, for today's project, all we're going to do is we're going to cut off 8 inches of this thing and solder an XLR connector on it. But, you know, anything worth doing is worth filming, right? You guys? So generally for these kind of things, I'll leave myself enough slack. So the customer asked for 8. I'm going to give them 10 right here, because that will allow me some slack as far as getting the wires on there. So first, let's see, what's our pinout on this? We don't even know. They're not numbered. Well, that's weird. They numbered on the male version? No? Okay. Well, stand by. We're going to make a cut right here, and we're going to figure out if it's clockwise or counterclockwise for the pinouts on this, because, well, it needs to match. So stand by. Okay, so looking at the Switchcraft website, they start all of their connectors with the largest number being on the left-hand side and going clockwise, starting with the lowest number, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then also looking at the Meyer pinout here, we are looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So pin 5 is audio positive, pin 4 is audio negative, pin 3 is ground, pin 2 is DC positive, and pin 1 is DC negative. So the interesting thing about these is they have like a 1U amplifier kind of thing that these things come with. So, you know, they're running everything down this EN3 line. So within the same chassis, you get positive and negative audio, positive and negative power with some type of common ground. So generally my experience with making these multi-pin kind of cables is as long as you pick a standard and stick to it, as long as pin 1 on this connector equals pin 1 on the other side, life is generally good. The reason why I needed to figure out what pin 1 was is we needed to be able to check continuity. So speaking of that, of course, the running joke in my world is what's the difference between an integrator and a hobbyist, and that is the amount of heat shrink that you use. So ABB at LM, always be branding. So I am going to strip this back, and because autofocus is a trap, we're going to do that. Make sure that we're in focus. And then we are going to grab our Neutrik NC5MXX connector in the black flavor, which I think is the superior color to the nickel, but that's just me. And, you know, the higher pin count XLRs, they build just like the 3-conductor ones, just a little teenier. So now we've got this all stripped back. I mean, and this is the #1 game when building any cable like this. It's like you always put your stuff on there in reverse order. So there's the LM logo, the clear heat shrink, the boot, and the little strain relief chuck. So in case you were curious at the beginning of the video why I stripped so much back, it's so that you don't have to be stingy. I'd rather strip back a big amount of wire on this and then trim them down. I do that with all of the cables. It's just my own way that I like to build the stuff. So here's what we've got. Oh, cool. These are all coated conductors. Sometimes when you get to these multi cables like this, the multi-core cable, that's the word I was looking for. You'll get a drain wire that's bare. Like, for example, when we build the loom, we're going to build it out of star quad, and it will it's nice. The drain wire on that is not insulated. So again, you should also check and see what the gauge is on this wire. What is this? 20. So we're not far off. Star quad's 24 or 22. I think it's 22. So we're not doing too bad. And that's within spec, in case you guys were wondering. It does say that on the Meyer website. So, okay, let's solder this thing. So I should mention also that if you guys are so inclined, if you're curious about any of the tools that I use, I do have an Amazon store if you want to check that out. If you want to give Uncle Jeff your money, you know, some people do, some people don't. But if you feel like giving Uncle Jeff your money, you can check out my Amazon store, and it'll show you all the tools. I got some new ones that are actually pretty sweet. I got these shears. Ben recommended that I get these cable cutters like this that are kind of angled like this. They do cut cable, especially multi-core cable, a lot better. I was just using lineman's tools for everything, or a lineman tool for everything. Lineman, which were nice, but sometimes with the thicker stuff, when you get up into the 10 gauge flavor, it can get a little funky. So that was a Ben thing. Appreciate you, Ben, if you're watching. So for this, when we get our pinouts here, so I have what the Meyer pinout is, I have what the barrels are, but the cool thing is they do have multicolors in here. So I don't know why I'm grabbing my soldering iron, because I'm crazy. It's the end of the day and I'm sleepy. So if you set your multimeter to the continuity setting, which is the ohm, we can figure out what our pinout is. So before we do this, we are going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll have EN3 color. So we can figure out. So pin 5, we'll start here. Pin 5 is black. Pin 4 is white. I wonder if pin 3 is green for ground. Ooh, it is. Let's see, pin 2 is red. Pin 1 is blue. So let's double check our work here. So pin 1, blue, pin 2 is red, pin 3 is ground, pin 4 is white, and pin 5 is black. Okay. That's good to go. Now that will save us for the rest of this build. Okay. So to solder these things, I'm going to cut these down one more time. Neutrik tells you how long the tails should be, but for whatever reason, my thumb as a unit of measurement works out real well. And I build a lot of XLR cables. So, you know, sometimes you just get the feel for it. And this is 20 gauge. So I do generally use the Klein Catapult for these, but I do have the smaller burgundy handled stripper for 16 to 26 gauge wire, which is quite lovely, and I use these things all the time. So just in case you were wondering, tool wise. Okay. So for these guys, all we'll do is give them a little twist. And then we'll take our flux and just give them a little dip. When you dip, we dip, the dip. Can't remember the lyrics to that song now. That's right. I'm quoting the dip. That's where I'm at in the day today. Just in case you guys are wondering how underslept and overworked I am currently. Okay, so this, of course, is starting with pin 1 right here and then going around. So what we'll do is we will tin this. We'll tin these guys. Okay. And I do like to use the gold connectors. And one of the reasons why is they are a lot easier to solder. Well, I should say 2 reasons. 1, they're easier to solder. And 2, when I was a kid, I shopped at Radio Shack. And the gold connectors were always more expensive because they were better. So, you know, that's got to mean something, right? Okay, what I did forget to do was grab heat shrink, so stand by, I'm going to grab that. So this is one of those things that you probably don't need heat shrink, but the connectors, or I should say the contacts are so close together, and you're running audio and power down the same line. God forbid power arcs. I mean, again, this is some theoretical stuff here that I don't think it's going to happen. Do we need it? Probably not. Is it probably a good practice to do it? Yeah. So again, to help you when you're soldering this sort of stuff, again, if you notice in the beginning I cut this cable long, and then I also trimmed these long because they're easier to solder so you don't melt the insulation. So once they're cut, I do like to just trim them back because these are teeny little solder cups in here. Okay, so let's start with pin 1, and we're just going to double check that pin 1 is on the left. And what is pin 1? Pin 1 is blue. with a nice big glob of solder on there. So we're going to take that off. You guys ready for the most satisfying tool ever? The solder sucker? Check this out. All you have to do is melt your solder like this and go like that. And then watch this. That's what it looks like. Come on. It's amazing, right? Haven't had to use that in a minute. I always joke. It's like, do you want to make sure? Oh, see, this is why we heat shrink. Look at this. This bridged these two pins together. Look at that. Pulled that out of there. It's crazy, right? I'm sure somebody in the comment section was feverishly typing that. You know why you heat shrink? If you bridge the pins. Okay, so pin 1 is blue. So before we do that, I'm going to put you down there like that. Again, as per normal, shout out to Quad Hands, the greatest thing in the world. If you are struggling with soldering, my God, get yourself a good set of helping hands and it will make everything easier. So, here we go. Blue is pin 1. Okay, you on there like that. And then we're going to shrink that guy down. Okay, and now red is our next one. A set of tweezers will also save your life. So the secondary set of helping hands, you kind of don't need once you get started, but it's red. Okay, here's pin 3 is going to be green. Okay, there we go. That's why these things are expensive. I feel like it's always interesting. I feel like I have to justify a lot of the cost for things. You know, when you're building things that are one-offs like this, you know, we sell one of these cables. Well, I don't think we sold one of these cables since like 2018. So it's 2024 at the time of this. So it's like, it's interesting when you start looking at stuff and it's like, well, how popular is it? How many do you have to sell to make money on certain things? It's like that with cases too. There's a lot of cases that we have that may look expensive compared to, you know, another case company that builds them in mass. Like, why is a rack from LM more expensive than a rack from another case company that's made in mass? Because we sell probably 1 or 2 to some, you know, to the hundreds that they probably sell. So it's like you look at these kind of custom projects like this, not a ton of margin. So when people call and ask for discounts and things like that, it's, you know, it's like, well, I'll help you out if I can, but oftentimes Okay, here we go. Check this guy out. Here's our little EN3 to XLR adapter. Now the customer specifically requested this to be 8 inches long. And like I said, we are going to make a tail, but once you've seen me, or I should say a loom, to do all of his downstage lip stuff together. But I feel like once you've seen one, you've seen them all. So this is already not the most riveting content in the history of the world. But anyway, if you're interested in this cable or anything like that, you can check the link below for the product link to this. And hey, if you guys need cables or cases or any of that kind of stuff, check out lmcasesonline.com. You will be supporting your pal Billy because, well, it's my family's company. So if you have any questions about this or anything else, just leave a comment below. Or you can email me, billy@billylaguardia.com. Happy to help with stuff if you need some help. And, you know, I'm always looking for content for videos. So shoot me an email, billy@billylaguardia.com. Anyway, thanks so much for stopping by. As always, appreciate it. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.